Hello, this is Donna. Today I want to talk to you about some of the Linux operating systems that we've been going over in information security. I'm going to start with Bodhi. When I first installed Bodhi, I was pretty much like, that's it. And truly that is the case. That is it. When you first install Bodhi, there is not much there at all. It is an extremely streamlined operating system. It doesn't really come with any kind of bells and whistles. It can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on what you're wanting to do with the operating system. If you're putting it into a production environment, I imagine it'd be pretty much a pain in the butt because you'd have to install everything. But if you wanted to use it for something like maybe a desktop for a younger child, it'd probably be very handy because it has a lot of customizable features. I'm going to start off by talking about the shelves and gadgets that you can get. If you go to your start menu and if you look under settings, you'll see all these gadgets, modules, and shelves. And the shelves are basically just what you think a shelf would be, just an item that you can put on and stick pretty much anywhere around the computer or desktop screen. Let's add maybe a mixer. We'll go ahead and add this gadget, close it, and then once we have it, we can rename it. We can change the stacking. We can change the position of it. We can change, the size. And this would be really good if you have kids, or an elderly user that has trouble finding things on the computer. You can put a lot here. So the next thing I want to talk about is installing your apps and pretty much all your user functionality, everything you're going to need here. We're going to go to Applications and Internet and the web browser, and the App Center has pretty much everything that you would need. You'll notice that there are some software bundles here at the top, and then there's some individual categories down here at the bottom. You can go get everything one by one, but the best bet's probably going to be this Nikila application set up here at the top. Nikila pretty much means everything. So this is going to give you, an image viewer, PDF viewer, office software, pretty much everything that you need to make the computer functional as a desktop. Now the last thing that I want to talk about with Bodhi is the file structure. Whenever you first set this up, it's going to give you a home directory and it's going to give you desktop. And now initially this is all you have, the account name that you set it up with and the desktop folder. This is something that I have added, and these are actually 2 extra users that I have added. And notice whenever you add a user that it automatically creates a home directory for them and nothing else. So there's nothing in here, there's no, my documents, there's no my pictures, anything like that. If you want those folders, you will have to create them. On the other hand, creating a user is super easy. You can just go to System Tools, Terminology. We're going to add sudo add user. And then it's going to ask us for information about the new account. So we'll set a password for it. And we'll enter the name. And it's also going to ask you things like a room number. You can just skip past these if you don't need them. And that simply the user is created with a home directory and a password. So yeah, that's pretty much that's Bodhi in a nutshell. So again, a very streamlined, bare bones operating system that has a lot of customizable features to it. That's probably the best benefit that I see with Bodhi. Next, we're going to look at Fedora. Now when this loads up, you'll see something that looks more like an operating system. If you go over here to Activities, it's the equivalent of a Start button, and you'll notice that there are a lot of programs already installed, such as a web browser, an email client, a messenger. You have audio, photo, office, things like that. If you go down here to the bottom, and the software button is going to lead us to where we can download pretty much any kind of software that we want for Linux. Nice categories, things like that. Next, I want to show you the file structure here. This is a little more similar to what we're used to. If you click on this filing cabinet, it'll open up the Files window. And you'll see that there are actually pre-made folders here, unlike Bodhi where there was absolutely nothing in the home directory. This one we're going to have desktop, documents, downloads, music, things like that. And finally I want to talk about adding a user in Fedora. So we're going to go to the terminal, we need to go Show Applications, go to Utilities, Terminal, and you'll notice there was a calculator and a couple other tools again that were not in Bodhi. And we're going to do sudo user add It's going to ask for our root password. And you notice we get nothing here. It's not prompting us to put in a password or anything else, so that's another step that we're going to have to take to add the password for this account. So there we go. We've added the new account and password. It wasn't quite as easy as it was in Bodhi, but not terrible. So with Fedora, I just want to finish up by saying it's known to be somewhat buggy because it has a lot of the new cutting edge services and things like that. So if you do undertake this installation, know that there could be issues and you might want to pay attention to that. Alright, next we're skipping over to Ubuntu. This one is very similar to Fedora. It's got the same lineup over here on the left. You just don't have to click anything to get to it. File structure is also the same, slightly more graphical than Fedora is, but not much of a difference there. Same type of programs, Firefox, the LibreOffice products. Download Center here, which is the same as all the other Linux downloads. One of the cool features is the workplace switcher, so you can have multiple things going on at once if you want to. And you can see the process for creating a user is very much the same as it was in Fedora. Sudo user add, then the username, then add the password. So again, Ubuntu, very similar to Fedora, just slightly more stable operating system. Alright, and our last operating system that we're going to talk about is OpenSUSE. This one is very similar to Windows. It looks fairly similar. You also have a start button, place to pin programs down here. And it even goes so far as to, in the system, there's a control center, which is suspiciously like the control panel that we're used to. There's options for software, hardware, system. And there's also security and users down here. You'll notice if you go to user and group management, you can add a user very easily. Just go ahead and click add. And we see that we've added this, and if we want to go add a group, the same process would be here, add group. So there's a lot more to this that I didn't mention. There's widgets up here on the desktop and a couple other things. But basically OpenSUSE has the most features out of all the Linux installations that we looked at today, and it's probably the most similar to Windows. Although that's a blasphemous thing to say to some Linux lovers. So yeah, all good operating systems depending on what you're planning on doing with them.